Okay, I'm gonna try and review this without spoilers. I literally just read the last 10 pages because I've had not much time, so it's pretty fresh in my mind. This is The Rose Society by Marie Lu. I took the cover off because I've been reading this book like a madwoman. Let's talk about the spoiler-free section. It's a little hard to talk about because this is the second book in a series, but if you would like to know about the first one, it's basically the story of a girl who is marked by a fever, the blood fever, that ravaged this town. She actually has lost her eye on her left side, I believe, and she's marked, but not everybody who's marked gets some of the certain perks that come with being a Malfetto, as they call it in this fantasy world. It's kind of based off Italy. This is really hard plot to explain, but anyways. And so Malfetto is kind of an outcast. People fear them because they don't understand how they look or how they survive. Like, they kind of see them as broken pieces of property or broken pieces of people. And the thing is, though, some of those Malfettos get powers, and those are called elites. And the elites, or the young elites of the group, are trying to get Enzo on the throne, and the plot just unfolds. I'm trying so hard not to spoil the first book. It's amazing. Probably one of the best books I've read in a long time. I wasn't really a fan of Legend, but Marie Lu knows what she's doing. It's poetic, it's beautiful. It asks so many questions that you didn't even think to ask. So, goodbye non-spoiler people. I hope you read The Young Elites and then come back for The Rose Society, because I really can talk about the plot of Rose Society because it completely spoils you. Alright, all the people who are gone. Can I just talk about how much I love Magino, or Magino, or however you say it? I knew he was going to come into play in the book because in the first book I believe they were talking about a Malfetto that was able to bring people back from the dead, and Magino or whatever was thought to be that for a while, but apparently was actually Mauve, if I may be saying the wrong, Queen Mauve. And I really didn't expect to like him because he's kind of the new love interest, and I personally love Enzo. I sobbed so much when he died in the first book. Like, I still can't even get over it. And I enjoyed Magino being there. He added a new kind of storyline. He kind of pulled Adelina out of the darkness when she was so into being the White Wolf and so being into this evil woman, like those whispers in her head or even the illusions. And he wasn't really angry. You could see that he was affected by how much she cared for Enzo, but I never really got the whole, well, you shouldn't talk to him and blah 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 because I'm jealous, and because I think he knows Adelina's more complicated than that. She's not just this average girl that's like, oh, I like this boy and blah 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 blah. Like, Adelina's complex. She's conflicted. She's still conflicted. I'm a little surprised that Violetta is still with her. I mean, they're sisters. I mean, okay, well, except the end of the book. That ending literally made me almost cry because everything was getting resolved. I mean, yeah, it wasn't very good for the daggers when first they killed Galletta. I may be saying that. I said Gallaudet in my head, but that's probably completely wrong. They convinced Taryn to kill her. And Taryn is in love with her, but Adelina weaved one of her illusions on his face to make it seem like she was a Malfetto, and Taryn's just like insane and thinks that all Malfettos are horrible, and he's been trying to like annihilate them this whole trip. Which I was a little surprised that he kind of worked with Adelina. Like, he really hates Malfettos. To them, he's like the scum of the world, scum of the earth, they're horrible, they need to all die out. Maybe it's because he needs a bigger goal, or he feels like he can get his hands dirty and get better at the end, but it just didn't seem like his character. Taryn kind of lost drive to me as the book went on. Like, he kind of just seemed like more a madman, which was really cool. Like, I was so shocked when he actually killed the queen, and he's like killing her and he's talking to her, and then Adelina describes him as like he looked even more insane as he was walking, and you're just like, oh my lord. I was so happy. This sounds terrible, but I was so happy that Adelina was able to kind of capture him when she didn't really need him anymore, and she's gonna torture him like he really deserves, because so many of these characters, like Snow and all these, they don't get the deaths or the punishment that they deserve. I mean, this man has done horrible things to people just because he thinks that his religion or his choices made these people horrible. Like, just because they're disfigured and not normal in society and could have superpowers doesn't mean that they're the scum of the world. But I guess I think people are always scared of what they don't understand. I did like Magino, going back to that, how his comicalness added to the story, and just kind of his banters back and forth with Adelina. Like, their conversations were so cute, and it took away from like moments where I'm like, oh my god, Adelina's killing more people, she's getting darker, is she gonna be okay? The Illusions is kind of interesting. I never expected a book where a lot of the characters actually have powers to go into the idea that really we're not supposed to have these powers, and so they're affecting our bodies. I didn't expect the whole thing with the Windwalker, how he thought that her bones were going down. I really don't know how that's going to play in the last book. I believe this is a trilogy, but it's going to be something, because if Adelina doesn't stop, she's in danger too. I want Raphael and Adelina to sit down and just talk about what's going on. I understand that this is fictional, and to keep the plot going you kind of need a strife between them, and Adelina just keeps doing things that they don't understand because they don't see her point of view, and we do. I don't advocate for a lot of things that Adelina did, but I also don't think that she's completely in the wrong. I mean, she made some bad choices, but it's like Raphael and the Daggers think she's this traitor, and she's really not. Like, I think had they not thought that she was a traitor, she probably would stay with them. I mean, her thing with Taryn and all that in the first book was probably not her best choice, but I mean, if your sister is in danger, wouldn't you go and save her? I just think if Raphael heard from Adelina's point of view what is going on, he might just forgive her, or they might just join forces instead of like Mauve and the Daggers together, and the Rose Society and Enzo and Adelina together. Okay, let us talk about Enzo. I started this book and in the whole head I was like screaming, where's Enzo? Where's Enzo? I love Enzo. Like, I know he died, but I knew Marie Lu was going to bring him back. There was no way that we could continue on with this story without Enzo here. So I was just waiting and waiting and waiting, but the way that they brought him back was like so interesting, and I was so worried that he was actually going to be attached to Raphael and that she would never actually get to interact with him. But then Adelina comes up with this like ingenious plan to be able to get oh my god, Enzo attached to her when Mauve tries to bring him back. Which Mauve's superpower is weird. I kind of like the idea that they were talking about, like, well, that's wrong, and you shouldn't really do that, and she was like, well, I'm blessed, or whatever, by the whatever gave us these powers, and it was kind of, like, controversial. Like, I understand that the Malfettos think that they're, like, the children of God, or whatever, they think that they're doing what's right, but at the same time, it was really interesting to see some of the Malfettos and the elites kind of have a controversy over something, or over power. Like, you see Adelina just really doesn't have a filter. She would just do anything or kill anyone for any reason because she's angry or because she felt like it. And it's kind of cool just to see that they're not all a perfect group at all times. I love this book. I think it wasn't as good as the first book, though. I think it's about like a 5% difference. Like, I really enjoyed The Young Elites a lot more. I read it faster. It was a little, I don't want to say happier, because at the same time I feel like, even though she says this is like The Empire Strikes Back and it's darker, I actually feel like The Young Elites is darker. And it's because, like, the scenes with her and the Inquisitors, and she thinks she's gonna die, and then Violetta, and then the end with Enzo. And this one, I don't think she killed as many people as she killed in the book, unless you count, like, the big, massive killing scenes. Like, when they're on the ships, and she makes Enzo set fire to everything, and like, oh, that's another thing. If you guys know this, I really don't. Why did Raphael keep saying don't? I could have just not caught what he was saying, but I was wondering if there was like a hidden message there. They poisoned Enzo against her. Enzo, his black eyes kind of freak me out. Like, I understand that he's dead and he really shouldn't be here, but like, his bond with Adelina, they finally got to kiss. Like, I love this couple. Okay, that sounds terrible, but I love this couple. And I wanted them to be together so bad, and it was like, just the taste of her lips, that sounds so strange. The taste of her lips on his just like disgusted him. And every time he uses his powers, he gets like, okay, all I can think of is Smallville, you know, when they like had those black eyes and you're just like, oh my god, what the heck is wrong with these people? That was just freaking scary. Like, it's not the Enzo that I know and love. He's amazing, he's sweet, he's powerful, and like, he's not really sweet. I mean, he's practically a Hulk Reaper because he kills people, but I love him anyways. I think Adelina is starting to come to her senses a little bit, especially in the last couple pages where she says, I sat on the throne and I was waiting for the satisfaction to come, but there was none. And she kind of, after she kills people, after she does something, she kind of thinks about it and realizes that maybe that's not the right choice and maybe I shouldn't have done that. She probably should think about that before she completes an action. Oh, Gemma's death. Okay, I like Gemma. I didn't feel too bad about it. I mean, yeah, she's a dagger and you don't really want Adelina to kill the dagger. I do think the way that was written, no, Gemma, is Gemma the Star Thief? Because the Star Thief dies. Gemma might be the Windwalker, though. Because I know that she killed, what's his name, Dante, and all that in the last book. This book, I think the overall story arc was more thought out than the Young Elites. I think she was better at coming up with a plot after she had something established, because it was almost like, even though Young Elites was such a fun and wild ride and you were so surprised by the twists and turns, some of the times, some of the twists I felt a little forced, which, okay, I love the book. I give it 5 out of 5 stars, so there's not really that much that I can mess with, but I do think that, like, when the Inquisitor, I think it's Terran, who is talking to her late Inquisitor, and he's telling her, like, you won't be able to find your sister again unless you inform with me, and I'll kill your sister, and blah 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 blah. Like, why? He never said don't tell them, and I guarantee you Enzo would have just let them do it. He would have come, and he wouldn't have just let them do it. He would come and help her save her sister, and like, it would have just made such an easier story. We'd have Adelina still in the daggers and everything. Okay, I found myself liking characters that I really didn't expect to. I already listed Magino, but Sergio, wow, so many weird names. He's a mercenary and he worked for the Night King, and he's just, you think he's weird, like, okay, not weird, just like evil and bad, but you kind of just like Sergio, and I like how he fits in with the Rose Society group. I really want Violetta to come back because I really don't think Adelina meant it. Adelina went too far, but she needs Violetta right now, especially with all the stuff that she's going through and everything going on. Okay, I need to wrap this up because otherwise I could talk forever. I would give this book a, I'd say a 95%. It could have been better, as it could have been Young Elites, 95 to 98. It was great. I would definitely recommend it. I mean, if you can't really handle, not really dark, but like a sadder feeling book, or like a high fantasy, everyone says it's not high fantasy, but I feel it, then I wouldn't pick it up. But I really think that you would enjoy it if you do. A lot of people don't agree with me, and I don't know why. I find myself just immersed in the story, and it takes me longer to read because I really want to know what happens and like take in every detail, but that doesn't mean that it's slow or bad or it's not fast-paced, because it's certainly fast-paced. I hope you guys like this review, and I hope you tell me your opinions in the comments below. I love this book. I need to put the cover on it. If more people read The Young Elites, my life will be better.